Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good. Who is not here? Frank's not in. Okay. You see Prof, yeah. I see Prof. Good. So I think we can start this session. Welcome to the second day of the Africa DNS Forum. We will get started in about a minute or so. Yesterday we had a full room, I think perhaps too much breakfast or too much dinner, I don't know, a combination of the two, but I'm sure the rest of the people will join us. So this morning we're going to talk about security related to the domain name system. I am joined on the panel by very experienced experts who are going to break down for us exactly what DNSSEC is. This is sort of a technical session as compared to what we had yesterday. In terms of questions, how we're going to do this is we're going to have the three panelists speak, and then after that we're going to have a Q&A session, and the microphones are as they were yesterday. So I'm going to introduce the panelists today. We have Patrick Jones. Patrick Jones, on my left here, is the Senior Director of Global Stakeholder Engagement for ICANN, and he's based in Washington. Then to my right is Simon Balthazar, who is a Technical Manager at tzNIC, who are our hosts for this year's DNS Forum. And then on my far left is Alain Aina. Alain Aina wears many hats. He says I reduced them to just 3 today. So Alain Aina is WACREN. He's also the root crypto officer, or a root crypto officer. He'll tell us what that's about. And also he does the DNSSEC roadshow for ICANN Africa. So we have a very good panel this morning to talk about DNSSEC. So what we've planned with the panel today is Patrick will start and give a global perspective of DNSSEC, and then Alain Aina, who's had a lot of activities in Africa related to DNSSEC, will give a regional perspective or regional update of what's going on in Africa. And then Simon from tzNIC, Simon, one of the few CCTLDs who have signed the zone. He'll give us his personal experience or a local experience of how all that went through. So I'll now hand over to Patrick Jones. Patrick has slides to take us through the DNSSEC update. Patrick.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. And thank you very much for having me here to provide some of the global perspective about DNSSEC. I have a few slides, and then Alain will take over, and then we'll all be able to share our own experiences and observations about domain name system security. Next slide. So I want to set the stage for the discussion and put this into terms of how much trust do we put in the internet and in the domain name system. There are estimates from the Boston Consulting Group and others that the internet represents 4.2 trillion in digital trade, about 5% of the gross domestic product for the G20 countries in 2016. The OECD provides some estimates that about 12% of global consumer goods are exchanged through e-commerce. Next slide. We're heading into a growth where there are billions and billions of mobile phones that are connected. The vast majority of internet users in Africa do so through mobile devices. We have there are terms now being used that we're entering an age where we're going from an Internet of Things to an Internet of Everything, and we're now seeing that there are anywhere from 7 to almost 20 billion devices that are connected today. In the next 3 years, we're expecting to have up to 30 or 40 billion devices connected. Next slide. So when the domain name system was conceived by the internet technical community and engineers, they didn't build the system with security in mind from the outset. This has been added as a protocol within the last 10, 20 years. And we refer to this as DNS security extensions, or DNSSEC. This adds a layer of security to the domain name system using public key cryptography. And we're seeing a growth and adoption in this. Next slide. So where we are today, we're at about 90% of the top level domains have enabled DNSSEC. I just checked this morning. This figure is still correct. We do have 1,547 top level domains in the root zone, and 1,406 are signed. Just under 50% of the country code top level domains are signed. And in addition to South Africa and Vietnam, we've also had recent adoption by Liberia in the region. And we're seeing steady adoption at the second level for DNSSEC. Now what we need is ISPs, registrars, banks, and other infrastructure providers to enable validation and enable DNSSEC so that customers and internet users can take full advantage of this. Next slide. We're seeing a higher rate of adoption in new top-level domains because it's required by their contracts from the very beginning. When they're delegated, they need to be running DNSSEC. A few examples where the policies for .bank and .insurance require all the domains that are delegated within their space to have DNSSEC enabled. .ovh is an example of a new top-level domain that's run by a French internet service provider, and this right now is the largest top-level domain that has DNSSEC for its customers of the new top-level domains that were added in the last few years. I use .friesland, .amsterdam, and Paris as examples of city and regional top-level domains that have a high percentage of DNSSEC domains in their zones. And .taxi is an example of a top-level domain that's generic, but has a large percentage of DNSSEC domains in its zone. Next slide. So again, as I mentioned, we're now seeing large internet service providers enabling this for their customers. The current statistics are that DNSSEC validation is at about 13%. There's quite a large way to go in the number of ISPs that will be turning this on and enabling it. And we're hoping to see stronger adoption in the next year or two. The next set of slides is all about the current process that we have underway for rolling the key signing key. Next slide. Before I talk about the KSK rollover process, this is a graphic showing where we are today. It's a little out of date because we're missing Liberia from this map, but this gives you a picture of DNSSEC deployment at the country code level around the world. We have quite a way to go in this region for DNSSEC adoption. Alain, you'll be able to talk about that more. And I think where we have seen a great amount of adoption, they've done so with a lot of collaboration at the local level. And Simon will be able to talk about that, of the work that you've been doing to help encourage DNSSEC adoption in the region. Next slide. So this is an example. If you go to ICANN's DNSSEC deployment page, you will see a full list of the top-level domains that have enabled DNSSEC, and where the DNSSEC is turned on, we'll have a green. Green is good. Green shows that DNSSEC is enabled. I've included AE as an example at the bottom of a top-level domain that is planning to implement DNSSEC later this year. We have our ICANN meeting in Abu Dhabi, and the .ae folks intend to announce that they'll be enabling DNSSEC in time for that meeting. Next slide. So again, this is the current state. We really are encouraging internet service providers, banks, government agencies to adopt DNSSEC. This does add a layer of level of trust to the internet and the domain name system. Next slide. And this is a little out of date, but this gives a local perspective of DNSSEC deployment in the region. So what it doesn't show is Liberia is turned on, and also South Africa has gone from partial to full deployment. Next slide. So this next set of slides will talk about the KSK rollover process. Next slide. So why are we doing this? Well, when DNSSEC was deployed at the root zone in 2010, as part of a natural maintaining of systems, there's a natural lifespan to needing to update. And next slide. Where we are is we're in the process of generating. We've generated the new key signing key, and this is being done in collaboration with the internet community. Next slide. Right now, the new key signing key is running in parallel with the 2010 key signing key. We have a ceremony coming up in mid-October before the ICANN meeting in Abu Dhabi, and we'll be signing the root zone with that new key, and then the old key signing key will be revoked in January. Now, I guess we'll turn it over to Alain to talk about the regional perspective.
Can I? Okay, thank you, Patrick. Can we go back to the slide on the, go back, go back again. Yes. Yes, as we saw in the global map, and I can see Abibu is smiling. In terms of DNSSEC deployment for the CC, we are not doing very well, and we have been trying to improve things. And what you see right now there, if you compare to what it was in 2013, so you see progress, but we are not still not there. And in the presentation, Patrick shows that also show that DNSSEC validation, because in DNSSEC protocol there is sign-in, you have to sign in and the validation. So, and then we noticed that only 13% of the resolvers are doing the validation, and you also notice that the resolver we are using on this network, this CCOM network, I have to say, is not doing validation. And we raised this yesterday. I thought this morning we'll see changes, but I checked this before I came here, so still not doing the validation. So that means if you are using the CCOM resolver here, you have no DNSSEC validation. This is an example of the issue. So doing validation these days is very simple, so maybe the CCOM people will be able to explain. Then, on the other hand, we also have an issue of, we see TLDs signed, okay, but the second level domain are not signed. And if you look at the trend there are second level domain owned by the registrar, but there are second level domain, okay, still managed by registry. For example, TZ, you have co.tz, etc., etc. So some of these second level domain need to be signed. So to allow the registrars to build a chain of trust. And for example, because I see COSA people here, so ZA has been signed since December last year, but we are still waiting to see COSA.ZA to be signed. So maybe Mark will explain and tell us what to expect. So, Mark, did you get my point? We are still waiting for Koza. Okay. So, okay. So, yeah, so with the support for ICANN, we started a project called DNSSEC Roadshow in Africa 4 years ago. And what we did, we ran a survey, and we asked people, so describe your registries, what you are doing, and we asked two important questions on that survey is, what are the reasons for non-adoption of DNSSEC, and what is the timeline? And the response we got from the survey show almost what was expected. Technical skill, risk analysis, lack of expertise in doing risk analysis, because when you have the plain DNS running, you are fine. But if you want to add DNSSEC, that you have to add crypto key management to your plain DNS. So that is a serious new service you add to your DNS. It requires risk analysis. Okay, and the other response we got was tiered registry operation not ready in terms of process, in terms of registry automation, in terms of registry software, because if you are doing 3R, that means even if you, as registry, if you sign the TRDs and you sign on, and to allow the registrar to build a chain of trust, registrars will go through registrars. So if registrars are not accepting DS record, then the job is not done. So, yeah. So, and we decided, and with the ICANN Bureau Africa to jump in and help. Then we designed three channels. One was this, for those who told us that, oh, we are fine, we are ready to go, we just need time. So for these people, we stay close, we ask them to share their deployment plan, and we're trying to follow up. The second channel was people who said, oh, we have deployed DNSSEC. For example, Namibia was in that position, TZ was in that position. Oh, we deployed DNSSEC, but the community is not following. People are not showing interest, etc., etc. So, okay, so for these people, we say, okay, so let's organize event, awareness event, also training to the community registrars, DNS hosting company registrars, because as Patrick shows, if we want the banks, we want the government to adopt, so we need to build capacity in the DNS admin people, DNS hosting providers. Let's do these kind of things. Then we have the third category is people who said, oh, we really need help to assess the registry, build capacity, and design the plan, etc., etc. So, and then since 2013, we engage the CCTRDs, we go to countries, we organize event, 3 days event. First one is global awareness, open to the community at large. Second day is tech day, so we look at the protocol, we train people at least how you do validation, because these days it's very simple, easy that after you obtain the DNSSEC to learn how to do validation. Okay, trying to do validation, very simple. And because most of the DNS resolver now has the validation on by default, okay, people end up, oh, we were doing validation, we didn't know. We didn't know. So at least some people now realize that they are doing the validation because, yeah. So, and for those who are not doing validation, then we explain and we show how you can do validation, etc., etc. Okay. Then the third day, we spend time with the CC, the CC technical staff, okay, and to look at the registries, discuss the registry model and how, and come up with a plan. So this is how you should do things. And what we notice is that most of the challenges are not DNSSEC issue per se, as well. It's registry. You end up rebuilding the registry completely because there's no process, there's no dedicated staff, so the normal things in our African context. So sometimes you end up building DNS registry instead of design a DNSSEC deployment plan. But okay, well, we keep doing it. We say, at least we add something, and we expect that when they are able to fix the registries, then okay. And then sometimes you see them so excited. We want to tell ICANN we can do this in 1 year. I say, no. Let's be realistic. So we don't want to be like people who've been in this map, yellow, for 3 years, because yellow is announced. Some people have been there announced for 3 years. So no. So, but every meeting, every DNS forum, in 3 months, they say yellow, but nothing happened. So no. Let's be realistic. So okay, and then just follow the plan. But unfortunately, sometimes we don't get the plan follows. People change, priorities changes, etc. So this is what we are seeing on the ground. But we keep pushing. We also with YAOV, we have every quarter a call, a webinar, where we're trying to refresh people and remind them that they have committed to do to move on and deploy DNSSEC, and we are trying. So I think what I expect here is for AFTLG's management and the CC here to help us understand what is going on and see what we could do differently to help them, okay, and move on, because I don't think this is good, but okay, this is good for us here in Africa. So we are late in here, we are late in the validation, we are late in RPKI deployment, late in IPv6, I think. But I think 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we were excited that Africa would take the lead, because normal, we have a small registry, so it's easy. It's a small registries, it was very easy to deploy, because those who have a large registry has to look at performance issues, risk this, etc. But we thought that, okay, we'll be able to move faster, but it's not happening. So we have been considering also an option to deploy, to have a platform, okay, to sign. But this one too, I don't think it's a good solution, because we can make the whole continent green there, but nothing happen inside, because people will not be signing names and pushing DS. So putting green there is one thing, but you can see that if you see the last one is operational. So the operational are TLGs who are signed, has DS in the root zone, are accepting DS from registrants. So what we want is to be sign and be operational, not just sign and have DS in the root zone. Okay, so maybe to conclude, what we have seen is some people, some registry sign the TRDs, okay, the SLD are not signed, they are not operational. They keep the TRD signed, but sometimes they forget about it, to maintain the signature on the TRDs. So things happen, incidents happen. So because the TRD is signed and you have the DS in the root zone, so all the resolver doing the validation take you as DNSSEC enable TRD. So if the signature got bogus, so the whole TRD will disappear. It happened. I won't mention name. It happened. So it happened. So that means if the TRD is signed, even if you are not accepting DS, you have to maintain the signature, everything on the TRD. Otherwise, this will break the TRDs, and people will say, "Oh, why are you keeping this? Because you are not taking DS from us. Nobody is using it, but then you put the TRD at risk." Or we encourage people don't roll back, don't roll back and remove the DS from the root zone. Keep it, maintain it, and keep learning. Okay, and then you move on. So don't go back. So these are things we are seeing, etc., etc. So I won't mention names, but I hope that people who have this kind of experience will come up to the mic to explain what they have learned from it. So thank you, Kevin. I think I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you, Alain, and also thank you, Patrick, for that breakdown on DNSSEC. So we've been given a global perspective of DNSSEC deployment, and also Alain has talked about, regionally what activities he's been carrying out with building capacity at CCTLDs in Africa to be able to deploy DNSSEC. So looking at the map from this presentation, you can see that we have a bit of a way to go before all our CCTLDs in the region can say that they are fully deployed DNSSEC. One of the ones that are fully operational is tzNIC. We want to hear from them now, get a local perspective of what DNSSEC, what signing the TZ domain or TLD has meant in terms of also how it's been done, first of all, how you did it, and also what it means for people who want to register domains with their TZ. So Simon, I'll hand over to you. Please tell us why .tz or why tzNIC decided to sign their TLD. Just give us a brief breakdown of the process, and how would you advise other CCTLDs in the room today? Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. Just to respond to Kevin's question, is .tz was signed back in 2012. That's about 5 years ago, and we've been operational since then. But then after we signed the .tz domain name, it did not really come from the community, but it was a pressure from the board, I must say. So it started from the top. The board thought that it's important we secure .tz domain names, and we have our domains secured. So the process started in 2010, where we started looking at training our team on how best we can handle this, and looking at the procedures on how we can handle the keys and DNSSEC in general. So that went on, and in 2012 we published the DS into the root zone, and the .tz was operational. Then what? After that, we realized that we took a wrong approach in the sense that you can have the top signed, but if the community are not signing their domains, then it really doesn't make sense, because DNSSEC is all about having a chain of trust from the domain up to the top. Now, we started looking at how we can sensitize the community on start signing their domains and introducing DNSSEC now to the community. So that was a bit difficult, and we looked at ICANN Roadshow, and we invited Alain and Rick Lamb in 2013. So they came down and did a DNSSEC Roadshow, where we invited all the stakeholders in the industry, the ISPs, the registrars, and the meeting was held here at the BOT. And for 2 days, we talked about DNSSEC on how best we can, and why it's important that managers understand that they need to secure their domain in this digital world. So after the roadshow, then we start seeing things now moving. We had some of the registrars interested of taking DNSSEC as a service to offer to their registrants. But even then, still the progress has been very slow. Right now, as it stands, we have a total of 34 domains that are signed out of 14,000 that we have. So you'll see that still we have a long way to go. And out of the 60 registrars that we have locally, only one registrar is doing DNSSEC and is offering DNSSEC to their registrants. So still we need to sensitize the registrars on that they need to push this service to the end users. That's how we see the benefit of using DNSSEC. So from 2012, we've done 2 key rollovers, KSK rollovers. That was in 2014 and 2016, and they went successfully. We are accepting DS records from the third level, from the registrars. Right now, the project that we are doing at tzNIC is that we want to automate the acceptance of DS from the third level domain. We want those registrants who manage their own DNS servers to be able to publish the CDS and the CDNS keys, and so that they can be picked up automatically by the registry and be published into the .tz zone. So that is what we are looking into doing instead of them contacting their registrars and update the DS through EPP. So we fully utilize DNSSEC right now. Like at the registry level, we are doing DANE. If you look at our website, we have TLSA records published there, and everything is moving. We've done a number of training to our registrars and other stakeholders, trying to sensitize the use of DNSSEC, and also we've gone further outside our borders to help our neighbors. We've worked with a number of TLDs around us. We worked with Zambia, and we helped them sign their zone. We've also worked with Rwanda.rw. I think they're still working on it. They'll come around soon. We've worked with Lesotho.ls as a registry. So we are sharing this, whatever we've done with a number of registry around us to make sure DNSSEC is working. So we see from the map that is published there, we see a number of top level that are signed, but they are not really doing, they're not signing the second level domains. That means the DNSSEC is not usable to the end user. And I think that is the most important, and it's something that we need to look at, that we don't, we consider DNSSEC is running if you can accept DS from your registrants. And I think that is very important, because DNSSEC is all about a chain of trust, but that is the starting point. And we are ready to assist if the assistance is needed. And I think that's it from .tz.
Thank you very much, Simon. I have a couple of questions, but I'll first see if there are any questions from the floor for any of the panelists. If you have any questions, you can come to the mic. As you have a question? Question? Yeah, okay. Please go to mic. So we have a question from Yoga.
Good morning. I have two questions, maybe for all the panelists. My name is Yaovi Atohun, working for ICANN. My first question, from the presentation, we think that we understand that the DNSSEC is very important to add some level of security. So my question is, what is needed from the end user side? Because if a name is, or a zone is signed, what is needed from the end user side or from the ISP side, so that we get the signed information, the real information? So is there something needed? So is there is a need, is something happening, or some action taken in countries to do that? This is the first question. So the second is, we have some countries where we have the zone signed in Africa. What is it automatic that when people register at the second level, or the domain at the second level, are they automatically signed? Or adding to that question, when someone pick a domain name under like .tz, for example, is there an automatic option that is a zone is signed? This is there are the two questions I want to ask. Thank you very much.
Okay, let the panel respond. I think, Alain, the first question was for you, then second one for Simon. So, Alain. Yeah.
Okay, Yavi, I think for your first question is about, I would say, validation. So when you sign names, you expect people to, through validation, okay, to use the trust you added to the name through DNSSEC. So I saw validation is for the ISPs, the network administrators to something to enable. So as I said, enabling DNSSEC these days in most of the resolver software is easy. Some of them are doing it by default. And what we have seen is the public DNS like Google DNS, etc., are offering validation. And so this helped the growth we saw to 13, okay? But still, people are not still doing it. And why? I can't tell. So, but what I know is if you're using the latest version of bind or U-bound, validation is on by default. So, I don't know. So, then the second question is for some.
Yeah, so to respond to your question, if he's asking whether is it automatic when you pick a domain from a top level that is signed, that your domain will be signed? The answer is no. For the end user, you will need to sign your domain as well, and you upload the DS to the parent. Okay, so if your registrar is the one who's hosting your domain, then your registrar needs to offer this DNSSEC service and sign that domain on your behalf. So if you are an end user and you want your domain signed and it's hosted by your registrar, then it's upon you to pressure the registrar to sign the domain on your behalf and upload what we call the DS to the .tz domain so that we can have a full chain of trust from your zone up to the top level, up to the root server. So the answer is no, you need to have your domain signed and upload the DS to the top.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, before we take the next question, I think I see Neil and Bob. Just probably something for, just to make the audience also understand. We've had a couple of terminologies there, KSK, DS. Probably it would be good to get a bit more understanding of what those terms mean. I don't know if Patrick, can you probably just explain in terms of the DNSSEC signing process? What's the KSK and what's the DS?
So the KSK is DNSSEC works based on public key cryptography. There's a public key and a private key. So ICANN has key signing facilities. We have two. Each facility has 2 copies of the key signing material. We have trusted community representatives like Alain who participate in our key ceremonies. And in those ceremonies, everything is recorded so that the community can see the process that we go through to sign the root and update the root every few months with the new keys that are generated. DS records are called, those are the delegation signer records that are the country codes and top-level domains add to their records to show that they have deployed DNSSEC. I don't know if Simon and Alain want to add more to that.
Yeah. So as Patrick has explained, the DNSSEC is based on the public key cryptography. When you sign your zone, you get 2 keys, the KSK and the ZSK. The ZSK is the zone signing key. This is the this is the key that signed all the records in your zone and published the signatures for each zone for each record that you have in there. And the KSK is the one that signed the ZSK so that you can take the hash of that KSK to the parent to establish the trust from the parent to the child zone. So to keep it simple, it's like you have the parent zone, like say the .tz, need to know the signatures that are published on the on the zone of your domain. Now, to understand this DS, which is the hash of the key of that you use to sign, is put on the zone so that we have a link between your records and the top.
Thanks, Simon. Do you want to add anything, Alain, or? That's good. Okay, then we can move to the questions. I think we'll go to, we've had one question here, so start with that mic, then come to this mic. So, Neil, please. Not working. Can you try this one at the, next to Ali? Yeah, is that working? Maybe you can try that one. Yes, most likely. This is working.
Cool. Can you hear me? Alain actually asked the question about the ZA signing, and especially around the second-level domains, such as co.za, which is our largest second-level domain.
Please introduce yourself.
Sorry, Neil Dundas from DNS Africa. We're the back-end registry operator for .za, .africa, and .joburg, Cape Town, and Durban. We assist the ZA Central Registry for the ZA second-level domains with the technical infrastructure and the ZA Domain Name Authority on the .za top-level domain. And this project on tzNIC, if I can give you a quick, very brief background to it, and a status report, it's also come a long way. As we know, tzNIC normally does. It's got its origins a few years back. About a year ago, we started working together with the ZA Domain Name Authority, which is the CCTLD administrator for ZA, and the ZA Central Registry, which is the registry operator for co.za. And the challenge for us was working across these two different independent entities to actually get the tzNIC policy statement set up so that it was uniform and it sort of matched each other. And we, together with the two entities, decided on a rollout plan for tzNIC across the ZA namespace, or at least the namespaces run by those two entities. We started off by assisting them with this, the ZA Domain Name Authority with .za. We signed that some time ago, and we signed that into the root, as you would have noted. And since then, we've also signed some second-level domains like net.za, web.za, and org.za. I think we're talking about 50, 60,000 records, so it's not huge zones, but it was a good trial process for us to try the signing process, to see how the ZSK and KSK keys are rolled over and how they settle down. Those were then eventually signed into the ZA parent. So net, web, and org are actually fully DNSSEC compliant at the moment. And since about April, we've been testing co.za, which is 1.1, nearly 1.15 million domain records. We've signed that in a test environment, and we've been testing the key rollovers as much as we can. We did run into an issue relating to the Open DNSSEC software, and we needed an upgrade on that, and we did that upgrade, and we sent it back into testing, and we hope to be able to sign co.za into the ZA parent in September, just before our Internet Week in South Africa. So I think everything is in progress. There is a project plan published on the ZA Central Registry's website with the DNSSEC policy statement, as well as the rollout plan with planned dates when certain parts of the project go live. And we're in the, I'll say, the last 10th of that project plan. So by September, at least co.za, web.za, net, and org, as well as ZA, would have been signed, and we've been able to accept DS keys via EPP for some time already. Now we'll actually be able to do something with them. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Neil. We'll come to Ali. Question.
Merci, Ali Hajim.
Thank you. I've seen the team and the organizer of this event. They told me what they've done, but I've also realized that the chain number one is not operational. Will it be possible to review the contract? Can you help the person who's in charge of that chain in order to maintain the post? That would be very interesting. I've followed the question that has been asked, but I did not understand very well the response. When he said, what do we need at the level of the final user for the implementation of DNSSEC? I did not understand the answer. And my question is as follows. What is the major difficulty that we can bump into during the implementation of DNSSEC? Especially at the registries and also at the level of the final users. What can we think about? Because in Comoros we are thinking about the implementation of DNSSEC, and we are asking ourselves all the questions around the implementation of DNSSEC, and I will be very interested to hear what you'll say about that. Thank you.
Ali, I think we'll Bob will take your question and then the panel will respond.
Thank you, Chair. And I think Ali mentioned, talked along some of the questions I had. But maybe I would want to enhance that to what would be the prerequisites? Ali asked about challenges or the key areas, but I would ask what are the prerequisites for registries? What are those key things that they need to have in place for them to even now start thinking of signing their zones? If the panel could speak to that. The next question I would ask maybe Simon and Alain. There have been cases of those that have gone ahead and signed having challenges or DNSSEC breakdowns. And this, I think, has got that impact of creating kind of fear for others to then take that step, fearing that if they got a challenge, then everything crumbles down. What would you advise, or how can they go about ensuring that once you sign, then you have taken steps to make sure that it actually doesn't break down and actually cause bigger problems? And maybe tied to that is there a cost to signing your zones? Some of these decisions are not entirely technical. Maybe there's a finance committee, as Kariba mentioned yesterday, that wants to know what is the cost of this thing. So maybe if you could speak to that. And I don't know if Patrick, you could comment on, in terms of KSK, in case we do nothing, is there an impact? Do we stand to risk anything, especially in Africa, or even globally, if we don't update our resolvers, for example? Is there a potential impact? How many, roughly, in terms of population that is online, that is potentially going to be impacted if they don't if they don't update their resolvers? In terms of the KSK, if you could speak to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Bob. I think we'll take last question from you, Mark, then allow the panel to answer. Then maybe if there are another round of questions, we can take them.
Okay, as I heard my name being used from the front, I thought I also better come up here and defend myself. Accused, yes. It should be noted that I believe that South Africa has taken a reverse or a bottom-up approach to the whole DNSSEC problem. We've been training people since 2005, giving free DNS training courses. So there is a large population of DNS experts who know how to do DNSSEC in South Africa already. The proof of this would be, for example, the high percentage of DNSSEC resolvers available in South Africa. That's looking at Jeff Houston's information. So that's proof of the pudding as such. And the other thing in reality is ever since we've been running EPP, we've been allowing DS records to be inserted into the majority of zones. So that has been there. So we've removed the barriers for people being able to sign their own stuff by teaching them at no charge how to do it themselves, and we've been allowing them to put stuff into the zones, even if .co.za is not quite there yet. More or less everything else is there, just from a clarification point of view.
Okay, Patrick, can you respond?
So that's really encouraging to hear that you're going to be enabling DNSSEC on code.za. Once you do turn that on, I'm not sure if you realize that the ZA zone will jump to one of the highest rates of the number of domains within a space that are signed. And so that'll be a really strong example for the region to see a large top-level domain that can follow the process and enable DNSSEC. And I think that's something that is really encouraging, and you should also encourage other CCs in the region to, that's a good example to follow.
Thanks, Patrick. Okay, I think we can go through the questions now. First question was from, I think I'll start with Ali Haji. So perhaps Alain can answer that one. Like, what is the major difficulty that Comoros want to sign their own TCTLD? What would be the major difficulty that they would run into? Maybe you can give them a breakdown of that. Then also you could address Bob's questions in terms of, I think they're related prerequisites for registries. Maybe you can start with those two.
Yes. So okay, let me try Ali in French. So because I responded to Yavin in English, but Ali looked to that. Let me try Ali in French. Alors, donc, la question de
Ali's question was about final users. I'm thinking that this is linked to validation, because you said if a domain is signed, what can the final user do? To give clarification, we have to go back to the classical architecture. We have the associate domain, which is to be signed, and you have the registry and the registrar and the final users who are depositors of names. And these users who are depositors of name need to sign their domain name. They can do it on their own, or a host can do that, and they can do it with their registry, etc. So the name should be signed. It can be signed by the depositor himself if he has the capacity to do so. It can be done by the registry. They can sign his own as a service that they're providing. So that signing should be done somewhere, and people have been trained in order to do so, and they can have a service supplier who can do the job for them. So this is the users in the DNS chain. And someone who's using the internet and DNS, what does it need in order to benefit from the signatures? That is why I talked about validation. So you can have the user who can have his own resolver. And as I said, the resolver is not carrying out validation. So the final user depends and needs a resolver. It can be his own resolver, or the resolver of his supplier, or what they can do. They can use the DNS as Google in order to validate, to do validation. So the user who wants the validation of DNSSEC, he will need to have his own resolver, or he can ask his resolver supplier to do that for him. I don't know if that is clear now. When we talk about the final user here, we're talking about the registrar or the user of the net.
So I think this answer, and then he explained if you want to do Comoro, how you plan it, because you need to know that you have a full chain where you need, as people said, we hear Simon experience, then we hear from South Africa. So you can go top down or you can go bottom up. So it seems like the bottom up one seems to be done. Then let's train the technical people on the ground, the registrants, etc. Okay. So, Bob asked, can I continue? Bob asked, what are the key things people need to have in place to have in place? So we'll focus on the TRDs, Bob. We'll focus on the TRDs. We'll focus on the TRDs. So the key thing you need to have in place, for example, is one of the things is what Nell said, have a testbed environment. Most of the time we notice they have no development environment, no testbed. You have to have a testbed environment where you can try things, etc., because you are bringing now new stuff, cryptography, key management. So this is totally new from people managing the old or the plain DNS. So you need to have a testbed environment. Okay. You need to have a well operational registry, okay, automated, but also well managed with process in place. The other thing we lack the most is process. And DNSSEC deployment is going to be also about process. And I also used to say that when we talk about automation, automation does not mean don't have process. Okay? Because what you see now, people have automated registry, everything is running, there's no process. You need to have a process. The process must define how the registry works, how you interact with the registry, how you check, what if something goes wrong, etc., etc., etc. Because to do DNSSEC, your normal DNS provision system need to be open somewhere to add a new a signer. Okay, so then I ask you, okay, this thing is automated. The registry software generates the zone file, pushes to DNS. Okay, now I want this zone file to go through the signer before you go to DNS. How do we do that? You should be able to explain. You should be able to explain, okay, okay, and accept. And most of the time, people are afraid. Say, don't touch it. We don't really know. It looks like it's magic. It works magically, sometimes from Coca to DNS. Fine, it works. So I can't tell you how to give you this zone file, etc., etc., etc. No, even if it is automated, Coca is working. We know how it works. The file is generated to a DNS, either on the registry DNS, then you go to a hidden DNS server, then you go somewhere. This must be documented, and the technical people must know. So this is the thing you need to have in place, okay? And then you have to build a key management system. Okay, you have to buy a crypto device. Then this, I think, take me to the cost. There is cost to it. Training people, accessing the registries, buying a crypto device. But these days, then the good thing these days, many people are using soft SSM, okay, or you can use the USB token SSM. They work very well. They're not very expensive, but there are costs to it. Then the other part of the cost is updating the existing registry. Otherwise, most of the time we tell people, DNSSEC can be an excuse for you to get from approval from your board to improve the whole system. But yes, it may cost. But it's not only DNSSEC cost, but you are just using DNSSEC to improve the existing. So you have to cost. So the cost depends on the readiness of the registry. So that's why I can't tell you DNSSEC will cost $1,000. No, it depends. Maybe it can cost $10,000 for this one, 1,000 here. It depends on the readiness of the registries, etc., etc. So in part of what we do, we also assess and trying to get a sense of the budget and what it costs. So for the not breaking DNS, so if you have DNS signing in place, what we advise people is you need to add the DNSSEC to your monitoring system. Yeah, there are tools. There are tools to check the signature, to give you alert when things get close to expire, give an alert. So what we ask people is, so that's why one of the pre-requirement is, do you have a monitoring system in place? Do you monitor the SO record on your DNS, make sure that primary and secondary are synced? Okay, are you able to add signature validity checking? So you need to have this kind of things in place, have the alert, has the reaction thing in place, so now it comes back to process. And what we see most of the time, when things happen, people are just lost. They started talking to Aina to remove the DS, then they talk to us. We say, no, no, don't do this. They say, oh, no, no, we already activated Aina, and we can't stop Aina. It's lack of process. You should have a process. When things goes wrong, what do you check and how do you interact? And even having the contact of the people, it must be part of the thing you need to have in place to get this done. The other thing we also see most of the time, email. You send email to Aina to interact, but if you are using, if the email domain name is in .TLDs and the TLD is broken, no mail, then you are in trouble. So that means you need to go to the alternate email validation with Aina. So we advise people to do that. Have an email out of band, not inside the TLDs, because if TLDs is broken, there is no mail. Or use the automated root zone management system. Then you can log on and use a certificate to update. But if you depend on email and you do not have this alternate email, then you are in trouble. So this is, I think, we see. So this thing does not cost money, but for me, it's look like it's process. Having process, the things and procedure in place, etc., etc. So I think.
Thanks, Alain. I think you have consumed all the questions that were there for the panel. But there's just there's a question directly to Patrick, and then I'll also allow Simon to answer. There was a question to you, Patrick. If we don't sign the KSK, if we don't renew KSK, what does that mean for us?
So to Bob's question about what end users might see, if they've enabled automatic updates, then when the key is rolled, most users won't experience any issues. But what we're encouraging people to do is test your networks, check to see, do you do validation? If you don't do validation, see how trust is evaluated in your operations, test your networks, check your networks, have your system administrators look at their configuration files, see if they're up to date, make sure that you're following best practices. If DNSSEC validation is enabled in your networks, then make sure that you're following the materials that we're making available. ICANN has a KSK rollover testbed that you can go to on our website, and you can check your own networks that way. So what we're encouraging people to do is look at the ICANN website on the KSK rollover and go to the testbed, check it out, and you can play with the tools that we're making publicly available.
Thanks, Patrick. Abibu, is it a question or comment?
It is a question. My name is Abibu from the tzNIC registry for the records. Yesterday and in the past fora, we have been discussing about the domain volumes and the need for publicity for the locals to use their ccTLDs. Now, I can see the question is now compounded with also for the community to be aware of the DNSSEC. Now, how do we package the two? Because we are having problems on publicizing the use of ccTLDs, but now we need to include the issue of security so that registrants can also demand a signed domain. Now, how do we package the two so that we move together?
Okay, particular question. Before the panel can answer that, Simon, I think related to what Ali Haji was asking, related to the difficulties, challenges that they may experience, I want you to give us, for .tz, let's say there's a bank here, or there's let's say a bank, and they want to register their own website, bank.co.tz. What does it mean if they don't use, if they don't try to sign the domain versus what you have implemented is signing the, the top level TLD and then asking the registrar to sign the to sign the domain for them, the second and third level. What does it mean for a bank in terms of securing the services if they don't implement DNSSEC?
Thank you, Kevin. So DNSSEC prevents spoofing. That is the ability of changing the records in the recursive server. Like if you have a website, somebody may be able to redirect the traffic from your website into another website. So when we are looking for, let's say, www.bank.co.tz, someone may be able, if the domain is not signed, someone may be able to redirect www.bank into another website that looks similar to your bank. And this can, if the bank is online and they're doing transactions online, people may be able to capture information about their clients and customers, and they can use those login credentials to steal from the bank. Now, DNSSEC will be able to validate and to say to the client that you are accessing the right website for the bank, if you have the DNSSEC ready. So our advice to the bank will be you will have to sign your domain so that your customers are sure they are connecting to the right website and not the fake one that has been put by people with malice. And that can be prevented by DNSSEC. So DNSSEC is not removing all the security issues on the internet, but to the largest extent, the spoofing part, which is largely used, can be prevented by DNSSEC. So I think that would be our advice.
Thanks, Simon. So we've heard that DNSSEC would help secure more of our online transactions or interactions. I think I allow the panel out to answer to Abibu's questions in terms of raising awareness on the, to users on the importance of DNSSEC, how to brand that. Patrick, you mentioned that 90% of TLDs have been signed. Could you talk about that in relation to his question in terms of branding and, making users aware of the importance of getting their zone signed, or their domain signed, rather? Yeah. Okay. You have a question or a comment? Question. Okay. Maybe you can ask your question, then we'll take it down. Sorry, I see you've been standing for some time.
I wanted to find out, DNSSEC was supposed to solve a particular question.
I think they're asking who you are.
Oh, Paulos Nyirenda from Malawi.
Okay.
DNSSEC was supposed to answer a particular need or sort out a particular security issue. Now, since deployment has sort of taken place on a relatively large scale now, are we able to measure and say, indeed, is it being effective? Is there data that supports the fact that that particular need to sort out the security problem is actually being resolved?
Thank you, Paulos. Comment or question?
Question.
Okay, we can take this question and then I think we allow the panel to ask. So let's take your question.
Why is the panel not mentioning the word DANE, D-A-N-E?
He mentioned DANE. What is DANE? Maybe you can tell us, what is DANE?
What is DANE? DANE is one of the great reasons why we want to do DNSSEC to begin with. If we've got DANE, effectively what DANE is taking fingerprints, or potentially taking the fingerprint of a certificate. The certificate could be the SSL certificate you use for your website, or it could be the certificate or the SSL certificate you use for your mail server. If you take the fingerprint of your web server's SSL certificate and you stick it into DNS, and remembering that DNSSEC secures what you've got in your DNS, It means that if you travel to a website that has an SSL certificate and the fingerprint for it, you can cross-confirm by an alternative route to check that that website really is who it states it is, and that someone has not generated their own web certificate for a website that has a very similar name. It stops that, that sort of spoofing. And that is very kind of cool and useful. And then if you have a web certificate, if you have an SSL certificate right now for your mail system, and when SMTP, when two mail servers talk to each other, if they notice that there's a SSL certificate, then they will do secure mail, encrypted mail between the two endpoints. But it's only if they notice. There's no... so it's easy to put a man in the middle and stop that from happening. Now, if you use TLS in your mail system, when two mail clients talk to, when one mail client talks to another mail client, it already knows that there should be an SSL certificate there, and it has the fingerprint for it. So if it doesn't find the correct SSL certificate when it talks to the other mail server, it knows that there is a potential man-in-the-middle attack going on, so it won't send the mail. What that means is that mail, end-to-end security and encryption of mail is now plausible. Because already, if you're doing the right thing, you're using mail submission, from a client sending a piece of mail to his ISP, he uses submission, that's encrypted. Then the ISP sends it to another ISP, and he's using DANE and certificates, that's encrypted. And then when the guy at the far end uses IMAP or POP to download his mail, that's encrypted. So we have end-to-end encrypted email available. And I know that the German ISPs are selling this as an extra selling and security point. Those are some of the rewards of DANE, and that's why we should be going for DNSSEC and then looking at DANE and employing DANE to give us good mail security and better web security.
Thanks, Mark. So I think either Simon or Alain had touched on DANE but had not expanded. So thank you, Mark, for the lesson in DANE. I think I'll allow the panel now to answer the other questions. First one was towards branding DNSSEC. It's a question by people. How, and so I was asking to Patrick, what has motivated the other TLDs to sign, 90% of the other TLDs to sign? How, has ICANN played any role in that, promoting that? Maybe you can speak towards that.
Go first. Let me go first and complain that Mark just hijacked my section. Because the answer to what Abibu asked is exactly what he said. So what are the motivations? How can you sell DNSSEC? So I think DANE is one example. DANE is one example of using now DNSSEC to do bootstrap security of services, including mail, etc., as we said. So this is one thing. So the basic is that DNS, if you sign zone, like you said, for the bank, if you sign, it increased trust. Instead of only relying on the TLS, okay, so DNSSEC add another layer of trust and security, then plus the DANE facility. So this is things you can use to package and sell DNSSEC to inside the community. And the other thing is about the key rollover. Okay, so Patrick said that okay, ICANN is using RFC 5011 to do the key rollover, so it should happen automatically if your resolver is RFC 5011 enable. And but we also advise people that having the resolver 5011 is one thing, but the configuration may be different. For example, if you are using bind and your configuration is not in trust key mode, so that means your resolver will not be tracking. You need to put it in manage key mode, for example. So the software may be RFC 5011, but the configuration may not be appropriate. So that's why don't say I'm using this, so automatically it must be doing it for me. So the configuration matters. So this is what I want to add.
So one of the things that's really helped encourage DNSSEC adoption to make the percentage of the TLDs signed go up as high as it has been is that for all the new TLDs that have been delegated, it was required of them by contract that they had to do DNSSEC from the beginning. Some of the governments have started to make requirements of their government domains, or for example, in the Netherlands, all the Dutch government websites need to be DNSSEC enabled. So that's something that has seen the implementation increase in the Netherlands, in Sweden, Czech Republic, where else? Brazil. So if the government is supportive of DNSSEC and best practices for domain security, they'll encourage the operators to turn on DNSSEC and make that something that's required. You're also seeing a lot of banks and some internet service providers offer this to their customers, and that's where we've seen big ISPs like Comcast and Telia, Claro in Brazil is another example, where they've turned on DNSSEC for their customers.
Thanks, Patrick. So maybe Simon, do you have anything to add? Is there anything you're doing to promote the idea of DNSSEC with your registrars here in TZ?
One of the things is trying to motivate our registrars to use DNSSEC is it's not in effect yet, but we want to give them stars. Like if you are offering DNSSEC, you are becoming a 5-star registrar that you can offer DNSSEC to a registrar. This will motivate them to offer DNSSEC to more registrars, and also we are looking into giving them incentives such as a discount on a renewal for a domain that is signed. Yeah, so these are the things that we are still looking at the board level, but they're yet to be approved. But this is the direction we are taking as a .TZ.
Thank you, Simon. I don't see any questions on the mic. Yes, Paulus. Yes, Paulus had a good question on effectiveness. I think you want to address that, Alain? Measuring the effectiveness.
I will address the first part. The first part is, I think he asked what DNSSEC is supposed to solve as a problem. So it's cache poisoning, spoofing, and make sure we trust the data we have in DNS in terms of integrity, in terms of authenticity. So then it prevents DNS being used as an attack vector, okay, like we used to see before, by taking people to a website to collect the credential and steal money, etc., etc., etc. So this is what DNSSEC is supposed to help with. But then the second part of the question is, do we have some data to back that we have seen the effectiveness? So I think we seem to be more focusing on deployment than looking at this. So maybe this is something we need to add on our to-do list. I think so. Yeah.
Thanks, Alain. I don't see other questions from the floor, so probably we'll wrap up with a few closing comments from the panel. Alain, I would like to know, are there any resources available for someone who wants to learn more about DNSSEC? You spoke about validation, and you said you've done a test here, and you've seen that we don't have validation here. So, are there any resources that you can use? And also, tell us a bit more about your webinar. You said you have webinars that you run with Yaovi. How can people get access to those? How often are they?
Thank you, Kevin. I think these days, I think we have materials available online, and especially for the DNSSEC Roadshow. If you go to dnssec-africa.org, there is a section DNSSEC resources, then where we have material there, then from DNS basics to DNSSEC protocol, how you do validation. So I will encourage people to go there. I think if you go to ICANN webpage, there are some material there. NSRC has some DNSSEC material, so we have material available both in French, in English, and maybe in Portuguese, maybe in Arabic, because I know my friend over there, maybe we need more material in Arabic for DNSSEC. So we have we have things. So DNSSEC-africa.org. So for the webinar, the webinar is part of the DNSSEC roadshow for ICANN. So here we have this webinar with the CCTLD's manager. So it's not open. But I don't know. Can we open the webinar to anyone who wants to join? It's possible, no? Yeah. So, but right now we invite the CCTLDs then to join the webinar, and then we discuss the progress, the issues, and we look at where we are. We look at the agenda and see if we are making progress. So this is what we do for the webinar. So, but it's so far it has been a closed webinar with ICANN staff and the CCTLDs. No, we do both French, English, but no translation. Yaovi and myself, we're trying to play. We're trying to play. So, but so far we managed to get the English and French covered. So this is what we do. But we can open it. Maybe we announce it. Then anyone who want to be observer can also join and see what we're doing.
Thanks, Alain. Patrick, maybe you can also add on, is ICANN doing any type of measurements of effectiveness of DNSSEC? Any statistics that you could point people to?
Yeah, so ICANN has a page on the website on different statistics that we're collecting from the DNSSEC deployment. I think if you go to ICANN.org and put in DNSSEC, you'll see the page, and you can see the rate of TLDs that are signed. I think there are some other different measurements that we're collecting. Another example that's not an ICANN page, there's NTLD Stats, which is a website that tracks the new top-level domains, has a tab on DNSSEC, and that will give you the list of the new top-level domains and rank them by number of domains that are signed. It has other DNSSEC statistics there. So those are some good community examples. Different CCTLDs have their own statistics that are really interesting. I think the Dutch .nl has quite good statistics on the uptake of DNSSEC within the Netherlands, same as the .se, which runs the Sweden's country code. So I point to different community examples. I don't know if tzNIC also publishes statistics on their website of different stats that you track for your registry, but those are some good examples that show the progress of DNSSEC deployment, and that's greater security that we're enabling across the community for the internet users.
Thank you, Patrick. And lastly, Simon, perhaps you can talk about, you mentioned that you're also helping other CCTLDs in Africa. You've assisted, .rw, and you mentioned also Zambia. How many CCTLDs do we have in the room from Africa right now? CCTLDs, registries in Africa. Some people are not sure. Are you a registry or not? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7. About 7. 8. How many have signed, or at least have committed to sign? .KE, TZ.
I don't see KE like this. I see KE like this.
Okay.
Now I see KE.
Okay, so maybe Simon, if they want, if the other CCTLDs who have not signed the TLDs, how can they find you? How, in terms of your engagement in helping .rw and Zambia, how many days is it? Do you need to go there personally? How can you guide the process? How do you assist those CCTLDs?
Okay, usually there are two ways we can do this. The first one is by interacting via email if you have specific questions that you'd like to ask, and we can always take it from there. And the second one, like for RW, they invited us to Rwanda, and we sat down with them and we talked about what we did in .tz, and they gave us their scenario, and we discussed on how best we can they can go ahead and do DNSSEC. And for Zambia as well, we also went there and we sat with their team and we discussed. So usually it all starts with the email address, talk, and we can take it from there. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon. I think that brings us to the end of this session on DNSSEC. I found it very informative, and it's also good to see that we have local experts in the region who are able to assist. We have, Alain and also Simon. So if you're a registry or even a registrar who needs advice on DNSSEC, there are people here at this meeting who can assist. And Alain has also pointed us to a lot of materials, and also Patrick, materials that ICANN have on DNSSEC that can introduce those who are not very familiar with DNSSEC, to understand why you should be looking at deploying DNSSEC, or checking that you are using a validating resolver. I found this very interesting. So I think we should give our panel a round of applause for that. And I think we are up for a tea break. Thanks.